All right, you're live.
Hi, Lori and George. It's episode 10 of the Mean Joe Happy Hour Huddle, starring Stephanie Keogh, Bradley Simon, DJ Renob, Mike Bloomstein, me, and either we couldn't find a good digital mind to join us, or that's just an oxymoron and there really isn't a good digital mind out there. Or we just don't think there's anyone better or as good as our very own digital mastermind. He's more than just our digital guru. He's the ultimate Swiss Army knife. He's our IT and representative. He's my personal technology coach and a whole lot more. Finally, every office has one. He's our resident. I'm making that contrarian statement and sticking to it no matter what, guy. More on that later. Anthony Taylor. Before we get started, I do not want to say thanks for submitting questions because, let's be honest, nobody took time to submit questions. But don't worry, we have all the questions that you need answers to anyway. If you do have a question, pop it in the chat below. We'll probably ignore it. Also, say hi in the chat because we'd love to know who's, and we might even say hi back. So now, to everyone's favorite part of the huddle, the happy hour part. Let's see what everybody is drinking, and we'll start off with Stephanie.
So I'm trying to keep the Florida vibe going. I've got some frozen rum punch going.
Ooh, nice. Bradley?
I got a Coors Banquet beer.
Ooh.
In the Park Alley glass.
Nice. That's awesome. Mike?
Sticking to Rickard's Red. And we go Masters again, baby.
Nice. I have a Ciroc vodka and a Zevia iced tea, kind of like a little bit of an Arnold Palmer, John Daly-ish type thing going here. Anthony?
The classic Evan Williams, white label, bottled and bond, 100 proof.
Ooh.
Nice.
Ooh,
Good to see everyone. All right. Anthony, let's kick it off and give everybody a little bit of background. Where are you from? Where'd you go to high school? Where'd you go to college? What sports you play? What was your time in the 40? All that good stuff.
So originally from Toledo, Ohio, and as everybody knows, I love to remind people I went to St. Francis de Sales High School right on Bancroft Street in Toledo, home of the Knights. Graduated from there, went to Baldwin Wallace here on the west side of Cleveland. Fast forward, during college, started working for the Cleveland Indians, had a really cool internship there. Ended up sticking with the team, moving up to their corporate partnership department. Left there to bet on myself, joined a radio station, a group of radio stations here in Cleveland. Shortly thereafter, connected with Todd, and fast forward 3 years, here we are. Rest is history, and on.
There you go. All right, so digital. We know there's a ton of digital companies out there. Every media company that we buy media from, and even more than that, are selling digital. What do they mean by digital?
So I think that's a tough question to answer, especially when you start to consider that you mentioned it. All these media companies are selling it. There's so many different places it can be. If it's connected to the internet, it's digital advertising. The things that are going to come to mind and probably mean most to a business owner, you're talking about pay-per-click, search engine marketing, SEO, display, Facebook advertising, social media advertising, social media management. But then the cornerstone of that all, it's going to be website. And I think that's one it's almost easily overlooked. You could have a business that feels like they're ready to invest in a mass marketing campaign like TV or radio, and we know as well as anybody that that's going to drive results for you. But On every TV commercial, there's a phone number and a website. On every radio commercial, it tells the name of the business. And today we know people are going to look up that business and they're going to try and find more information. And they're going to do that on your website. And if you don't have a website, they're going to find it from somewhere else, and you don't have control over what that information is. So basically, if it's online, it's digital marketing, and the cornerstone of that's always going to be the website.
And you always say that's like your other storefront. So, treat it with the same kind of care that you did when you created your business and your storefront or your office, whatever it is. So if somebody has just started a business, all they have is a website, or they've been in business for a long time and they have a website, what are some of the first things that they should do?
Yeah, so I heard a couple of years ago that data trades at a higher volume than oil in the 21st century. I haven't been able to find a reputable source that actually backs that up. Data is most important, and starting to get your data and making sure you own your data from day one is extremely, extremely important. So how do you do that? You need to make sure you have Google Analytics on your site loaded in at the bare minimum. What Google Analytics does is it's an anonymous tracking tool that your consumer will never know, but it tells you who's done your website, how they got there, and what they did once they were there. Set it up. You can set up conversions, which are basically an event on your website, event being an action taken by a user that you want them to take. So, everybody likes a lead form if you're in sales, because that's one less call you got to make because they came to you. If you're selling in e-commerce or you're in retail, a conversion would be an add to cart. Once they add to cart, continue to check out, and finally purchase. So Google Analytics is bare minimum a start. And then if you're going to do advertising, you need to have your Google Ads pixel, have that installed on your site. Depending on if you're a B2B business or B2C business, you need to install your Facebook pixel on your site, which it's kind of crazy that you have all these data companies out there like Google, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. LinkedIn's owned by Microsoft, Instagram's owned by Facebook. But you have all these data companies out there, and they monetize data, but they don't really talk to each other really well. So if you're a business owner and you think, I'm getting all my consumer data from Google Analytics, you're not. You're missing some of it. You need to install Facebook pixels and LinkedIn Insight tags to really make sure that when you go to start advertising, you have that data built up. You're going to invest in driving people to your site, whether it's having a salesperson cold calling 80 people in a day or some type of an ad campaign. You need to be able to track that and capture that data. And then something that is going to go along with any of those data tracking tools, you need to know what you want out of your website. And it sounds like a stupid thing to point out, or well, duh, I want to generate sales for my website. What does that mean? Is it a form fill? When people fill out the form, did they get an automated response? Did they get sent a message on the screen that says, thank you for submitting the form? Do you want phone calls? Do you want them to check out? Do you want them to request a quote? I mean, there's so many things that I want my website to work for me can mean, and you have to make that decision ahead of time so that you can structure your data and structure your campaigns to drive that action. And we hear it all the time, Facebook didn't work for me, or Google Ads, PPC doesn't work for me, or radio doesn't work for me, or my website, it's just there. The reality is the campaign's going to do what you set it up to do. Whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's manual, however you set it up, it's going to do what you tell it to do. So you're going to be disappointed in the results.
So I think what he's trying to say is, and get ready with your drinks. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yummy.
So we've been on a number of meetings together lately, very virtual, and And we ask people about Google Analytics. Do you have Google Analytics? And there's so many businesses, established businesses, that have never set that up. And well, I don't want to dwell on it for too long. There's so many things that they could learn from Google Analytics. Maybe just touch on a couple of the most simple basic things that somebody who doesn't have to be like a complete technology person to understand what they would learn if they were able to look at a Google Analytics dashboard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned dashboard, because you can get lost in Google Analytics, so it's good to create a dashboard that just has the stuff that you're looking for. But if you have access to Google Analytics, the things that you're going to see there, how many people are going to your site, how they're getting there, so you can, and this is where we're digging in a little more, but if you get what's called direct traffic, so people who literally type in meanjoeadvertising.com, don't forget to check it out and go read the blog. You type in meanjoeadvertising.com, that's going to show up as direct. The second step of that is that they heard of meanjoeadvertising.com from somewhere, so it's either a referral or a piece of mass media, mass marketing lead that you're getting from that. Could be organic search. You see are people Googling your name? Are they finding you from the services you provide? Are you doing SEO, which is just this black box of who really knows all these factors that go into it and how to manipulate it? Is it through a paid campaign? Really, you're going to get that information of who's coming to your website, where they're coming from, and then you can dig into how they're using your site. So you get a little more advanced into, okay, the number one page on our website is the frequently asked question of how do I schedule an appointment? That tells you that you've done a really bad job marketing and promoting how to schedule an appointment, and you need to do a better job in your messaging of schedule an appointment by calling X or go to this page or this site. So it's who's coming to your site, where they're coming from, and then how they're actually using your site.
Yeah, and I think one of my favorite things that, and we've seen it in action, that people could learn that would probably be really easy for some, or really important for somebody and easy for them, would be if people are coming to your site and leaving really fast. Like, we've seen that, and what does that tell you? That means we need to come up with more reasons for them to stay. We need to come up with content. We need to come up with graphics, images, video, whatever it is. And I mean, we've seen it really recently, actually, too. So.
Yeah, and the technical term there is bounce rate. So bounce rate is when somebody goes to a site and then doesn't perform an action or an event and leaves. You could have an analytics tag isn't set up correctly. But usually, to your point, it's because somebody went to the site and then didn't find what they're looking for and left. But yeah, I mean, the average time on site, all those things, you can make decisions that will help you maximize your marketing campaigns. For instance, we just got done doing for a business where they had a pop-up form, blew up right in your face as soon as you got to the site, as soon as possible. What we found was that was actually getting people to bounce away from the site. They were saying, whoa, that's an awesome offer, but holy shit, I'm not ready for that. I'm out of here. So what we learned to do was, all right, we're going to delay how long before they see that based off of the average time on site. And we're also going to delay based on where they are on the page. So the person has to be on the site for a certain amount of time, and they have to scroll down a certain point of the page before, all right, we know you're interested. We're going to hit you with this cool offer that we know you want because we know you're interested, and we're going to sweeten the pot, and you got to act now, and we're driving that event that that particular business wants to drive.
Cool. All right, so go ahead.
I was just going to say, so we were digging in a little deep there into some more specific things, but let's take for a company that's just getting started into the digital advertising space, what are some, misconceptions or mistakes that they might make in the beginning?
So I think one thing that people tend to look at digital advertising as is it's the silver bullet and it's super low cost, and I can spend $200 and get $200,000 worth of sales from it. Those are kind of, I'll call them unicorn events. Like, they just don't happen. When they do, it's awesome and everybody celebrates, and you end up working with Mean Joe for a really long time afterwards. But having a bad conception of what digital advertising can actually do for your business, being realistic about it. And secondly, something that I think a lot of business owners get they go and hire the youngest, freshest, greenest guy who says, like, I'm going to figure it out and I can do it. And yeah, they'll figure it out, but they're going to figure it out in a very expensive route. They're going to end up spending a lot of money on testing and learning and figuring stuff out, whereas you probably could have spent the same amount of money hiring a really good content writer, a really good content marketer, and a really good paid digital marketer to run those two different campaign models alongside each other. And running those campaigns as opposed to paying one person who makes all these mistakes along the way and learns that I can't do it all. I need XYZ resource to get it done. So really, it's just having the right expectations, knowing what they want out of it, knowing that one person can't do everything, and realizing that just like with paid media or anything else you do in business, it's going to take some money investment as well as some time investment to get the results that you want. And you just have to be realistic with that.
So Bradley was kind of jumping back also, and I want to as well. Early on, you kind of threw out a few things that might have cost you a quarter had we been in the office. But I feel like let's do like a little bit of a glossary of terms for anybody who maybe wants to know. Just give us a quick little thing on what is SEO, what is SEM. Some of those things you talked about. I think everybody knows what social media is, but maybe talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll try to give some detail. If I give too much detail,
we'll cut you off.
May wink or something, or just tell me to shut the hell up, because that's equally as effective. But so SEO, search engine optimization, is a term that essentially means you're manipulating the search engine results for a search engine such as Google or the other little guys, Yahoo, Bing, the ones nobody really cares about.
Dang,
And I'll say Google a couple more times to help our YouTube algorithm. So you're manipulating. SEO is basically you're trying to fool Google into, hey, I'm the number one here. I'm the best in this industry. I'm the best locally. SEO gets broken down into local SEO. Local SEO has different factors that go into it. Both SEO and local SEO have roughly 200 plus ranking factors that Google looks at. Unfortunately, because, and I mentioned before, it's a black box, because Google gets to control that algorithm, they don't tell us what SEO all involves. They give us hints. They tell us what's important. Local SEO reviews are really important. Proximity to the store is really important. SEO in general, backlinks are really, really important. Relevancy of content, longevity of being an index site. Site indexing is another issue or another thing to bring up there. Site indexing is basically how often search engines crawl your site. They have these things called spiders that go out there, and they literally go down each page of your site. They have a certain amount of time to go over each page. So if you have a slow site, it can't get to every page on your site, and all of a sudden you're not indexed. If you're not indexed, you can't rank on Google. So SEO, again, big black box. We could take 3 billion times and not tell us about it, and we'd have to extend the conversation. But that's SEO. SEM, search engine marketing. A lot of people know this as PPC, pay-per-click advertising. Essentially, you're paying for where you show up in the search ranking. So if you've ever been on Google, I'm sure you've seen them before. Bing has them as well. They're going to show up in the top 3 search results. Google's played with it more and more over the years. we're going to see where search engine marketing becomes more and more prevalent with businesses and more important. Google has realized that they're called black hat SEO tactics out there, which are basically like bad SEO tactics, harmful SEO tactics. They've realized that that's hurt users over the years. So they're taking up more and more space with these paid listings. Not to mention that because they're paid, Google makes money off of it versus SEO where they don't make money off of it. So there's more and more paid spots on the search engine result page. Social media advertising, I mentioned it before. If you're advertising on Instagram, you're paying Mr. Zuckerberg and Facebook because Instagram's owned by Facebook. They use the same advertising platform. Social media management, so that's organic social media. This is where a lot of business owners get tripped up on this, in that there's boosted posts, there's organic posts, and there's paid ads. So an organic post is when a page goes and just posts from ads themselves. On average, an organic post on social media is going to reach 6% of that page's audience. Why is that so? Again, Mark Zuckerberg, really smart guy, realized that you don't make a lot of money by letting people post for free and advertising for free. That's why cable, Spectrum, and all them have grown to be the massive conglomerates that they are, because they charge money to their customers. So then they came out with boosted posts. Boosted posts are, I'm going to take this organic post and I'm going to give Facebook money to reach more people. You get a little bit of targeting with it. Like you can say certain interests, certain areas, things like that, but you don't get a ton of targeting. And the main objective with that is just to get people to like, comment, or share your post. And then you have dark ads or Facebook advertising or social media advertising, which that's an entirely one-to-one experience. So you get to have a ton of targeting parameters around that. Todd and I could literally be sitting right next to each other on the exact same account. If we're scrolling through, he's going to see a different ad than I see, getting a different auction point than he is. Display advertising, one of the oldest forms of digital advertising, is going to be just like banner ads, things you see on a website. YouTube video advertising, things you see on a website, pre-roll, mid-roll, before the video, in the middle of the video. That's kind of the in-depth overview of everything, and I said I'd try to not be long-winded.
Pay-per-click. In a lot of our conversations, we talk about one of those is kind of this long play, and the other one is the quick. Just give like a really quick explanation about that, because I think that would be important for a lot of people who aren't that familiar with it.
Yeah. So as I said with SEO, you're manipulating the search engines. So it's going to take 6 months to really see results from that. But once you see results, unless you do something to, for lack of better terms, piss off the search engine, you're going to stay in that top spot it's going to be hard to move you off of that. So it's a long-term play. Once you're there, it's hard to move you off of it. It's harder to move up, but it is kind of easy to move down. SEM, that's a faucet. From the day that you turn it on, you can start seeing results from it. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll start an SEO campaign with the notion, hey, it's going to take 6 months for you to get there. And any SEO company that says that they can do it right away is probably lying to you, and I would challenge them on that, or try to hire them to work with us. But it's going to take 6 months, so you're going to start that in the beginning. And then while you're having that SEO campaign running, you want to do PPC, because we know that businesses need results now. So let's get results with the PPC, reinvest that into the SEO, and have that kind of 6 month time frame to see the long-term results from that.
Okay. With that said, so I want to be number one. It's the kind of thing we hear all the time. I want to be first. I want to be the top. I was looking on my computer today, and I was looking on my phone, and we weren't number one. So that's something that we hear a lot. What do you tell people who want that, and then how do they get so that they're at least close to where they want to be?
Yeah, so being number one is not the biggest thing. If you're And number one means different things for SEO and SEM. Number one in SEO is very, very profitable. Number one in search engine marketing and PPC, not necessarily the most profitable way to do it. Actually, I found that having an average positioning of 1.7 to 2.5, much better than just being number one.
Because people don't necessarily always want to click on the top one. They're a little skeptical.
Yeah, correct. And on top of that, because you get to control exactly what your ad is with pay-per-click marketing, you could have a kick-ass offer at number 2, pay less for it because you bid less for it and showed up at number 2, and get the sale where number 1 paid more for it, had a worse offer and a worse ad, and they didn't get anything. So there's a lot of factors that go into it. But considering that being number 1 isn't always the best, I'm a competitive person, so it kills me to not be number 1 sometimes. But seeing that revenue number at the end of the month always kind of helps pad the ego a little bit. And I'll say this, you could put this into the quarter jar for being number 1 or just digital marketing in general. Any paid digital advertising platform, they're there to make money. If it's Facebook, if it's Google, if it's Twitter, if it's TikTok, it doesn't matter. They're there to make money. So they're going to say and do and manipulate data in order to get you to spend more money. That's why they make it super easy for business owners to boost posts, because for $150 over the next 3 days, you could reach 300,000 people. Well, that's awesome, but those 150,000 of those are in India, and I really don't care to reach those because that's not going to bring people to my retail store in Cleveland, Ohio. So you always have to keep that in mind, that these digital advertising avenues and digital advertising medium, they're there to make money, and they're going to do what you tell them to do. But if you give them the checkbook and say, hey, give me what I want, they're going to run with it and write a blank check for as much as they can. And then, getting back to the original question about being number 1 on SEO, again, it takes a long time, and there's so many factors. Just that enough that you could have you could have the difference between the singular and the plural version of a word and get entirely different search engine results, and to entirely measure your SEO campaign off of that is unfair. And you have to be patient with it. If you're the type of person you need that instant gratification and you need the results right now, SEO might not be something that you should look at, because it's going to take time, and any shortcut you take, it's called manual action. Google can come in and do a manual action against your account, and then you may never recover from it. You're always going to be averaging at the average position of 50 because you did some type of black hat SEO technique back in 2005. So there are no shortcuts in the SEO game. In the SEM game, it's all about who's got the deeper pockets and who's willing to pay for what.
Okay, so let's talk about, people want to be number 1, but sometimes I've heard you have to explain to people that while you may be number 1 for Todd, you're not going to be number 1 for Bradley. So search engines have gotten smarter trying to give us what we're searching for, right? Absolutely.
And that's, again, going back to, these platforms, they're here for profit and they're going to spend your money. For the general user, Facebook, Google, Yahoo, Bing, Twitter, they're all free. So their job is to satisfy the consumer. So they have so much data on you, what sites you've been to, what places you've been in. It's scary how much data you can get on an individual. Really cool, and I nerd out on it all the time. But they're going to tailor your experience, Stephanie, to be what's going to make you most likely to come back. And the business on their end, yes, Google wants me to show up in as many as possible, and I can just bid my way into every possible search query. But there's a metric in Google Ads PPC called quality score, which basically Google says if you have a site that doesn't perform well, an ad that historically people don't want to click on, or they click on and leave the site quickly, we're going to give you a low quality score. It's ranked from 1 to 10. And if you have a low quality score, we're going to force you to pay more to get everyday consumers to click on your ad. So you have to be serving the purpose to the user, because that's what the search engine or the platform is doing. They're trying to provide a service and provide a good experience to the user in order to turn that around and sell it to you, the business, to show up or be a part of that experience.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated. Like I could search for ice cream shop, and it's going to give me different results than if my mom on the other side of town searched for ice cream shop, and not just by location, but based on where I've been before, what I've searched for before. Like, I think there are a lot of people who think anyone who types these 3 words into the Google search bar is going to get the same list in the same order, and that's just not the way it is.
And there's tools out there that are going to help you. So if you're a business, one that I didn't mention before, Google Search Console, you need to register your site with it so you have a better chance of getting indexed. But that's going to show you search queries that you show up in. But there's tools out there that help you as a business to quantify where you're showing up or what SEO efforts you have. SEMrush is one that I stand behind and use on a regular basis. They're really good. Moz is good. They're a second leader in the space. There's one called Ahrefs or Ahrefs. I don't like that one because I never know what to call it. No, it's a good one. But use the tools that are out there, because, and then we've talked about it at Me and Joe. As a business, it's very, very difficult to have more data or more information than Google or Facebook. So it's worth the investment into these massive data companies like Moz, SEMrush, so on and so forth, that have invested in the time and people and resources to create a system, to create a measurement for you, rather than you trying to figure it out on your own.
So that's a perfect opportunity for me to say something that I feel like I say every single episode, which is, we hope that there are people who are watching this live or watching this later on YouTube, and they really wanted to learn something because they didn't know. And I'm just saying this as myself, as business owner guy. This is way intimidating and very scary. And you talked about pixels, and you talked about signing up for this thing on Google and that thing on Google and creating a dashboard. And I would just not do that because it's intimidating. So this is not a solicitation either of Mean Joe Advertising. It's just in general, this seems like the kind of thing where you really need somebody who knows what they're doing to do it. It doesn't have to be us. There's other people out there, but I do know this, and I am setting this up a little bit, but people probably should think about maybe finding somebody else to help with this, number one. Number two, what are some of the buyer bewares of doing that? Because I'm getting scared about all the stuff that you're talking about that I don't know, and we talk about it all the time. So for somebody who is watching, they're like, oh my God, this is too much. So get help, get somebody to help you do it who knows what they're doing. That's their expertise. You be an expert in your thing, but there's some buyer bewares. And if you don't say a couple of things that I'm thinking of, I'll chime in at the end, but I think you will.
Yeah, and I think as a business owner, it's making that decision and living with it. And that decision being, I'm either going to invest a lot of my time to become an expert in this, and while you're doing that, you're not working on your business. So you either need to make that decision, live with it, and move on, and hey, I'm going to own that, or hey, I'm going to look for some help. And some of the buyer bewares there are cheaper isn't always better. You can use services. There's Upwork and Fiverr, and you can buy these freelance services out there that there's really good people that are on those platforms. I mean, I'm not going to experts who freelance on them. That's the point of the platform. But you're talking about a smaller percentage of people who are really good and just doing that for a little extra scratch versus the people who are, just there to make money and don't really care. Some of the things that you need to look for as a business owner are guarantees. I can do a mathematical equation of what I think your results are going to be. I can run it versus historical data and do this and that. But I'm always going to have to put an asterisk at the end that says, based off of historical information, what I think will happen. I can't guarantee that it's going to happen. If I can guarantee you that it's going to happen, I'm going to tell you to spend more money because I can guarantee you that you're going to make more money. And then probably the biggest one, especially if you're looking for an agency or a third party to work with and set a lot of this information up for you, is you have to protect your business and make sure that you own every part of it. Whether it's the Google Analytics, the Google Tag Manager, the Facebook Pixel, the Facebook, all those things, you as a business owner have to protect yourself to own those and make sure that if you're signing a contract with someone, it's written in there that you do own them. Because even in our experience as an agency, we've come across businesses that they had a website that they had been using with an agency for a long time. They decided to leave that agency and wanted to bring it in-house and farm it out to some other places. And they were told, well, you don't own your domain name. Your domain name is such as ninjaadvertising.com. So essentially this original agency was holding that domain hostage and saying, if you want it, the value of that based off of traffic is $10,000. So pay us a lump sum of $10,000 and you get to have your domain name of ninjaadvertising.com back. So as a business owner, you have to understand that if it's built under somebody else's account, if it's built under somebody else's name, they own it. And unless it's contractually obligated to go to you, they don't have to give it to you. And you really need to protect yourself and own those accounts. And I'll even say I've done some recovery work with Google where there was a Google Analytics account that was installed by a previous webmaster. Wow, I really feel like I should just throw $100 bill in the buzzword jar today. But there was a previous webmaster who had installed Google Analytics and put the business owner as an editor on the account. The business owner no longer had access to the email address that the webmaster had given it to. I reached out to Google on their behalf, said, here's the documentation of we're working with this business, here's the history, here's everybody's name. And Google's like, legally, based off of the user agreement, we can't give you anything because it's owned by that person. I understand that they don't own the domain. I understand that they're not the business owner, but they own that data, they own that pixel, and the only way that you can move forward is by starting from scratch and putting on a new pixel that's owned by that business owner. And it makes sense because Google has to protect against the vast majority of business owners who are able to do that and able to create their own accounts and load things and install things. But it's scary when you don't own your data because you
I thought it was important. Thank you for answering that way because we've had too many meetings where we've had that conversation, and if we can help anybody with that, I think that was worth talking about. Stephanie, Go ahead. Or somebody was about to ask something.
Yeah, I was just about to say. So I think, if business owners might need to be prepared that things are going to end up in their name and on their credit card, because you do have to pay for these things, but that's being done to protect them, right?
Absolutely. And there's so many free things. I mean, to your point, yes, if you're doing any paid advertising, it's going to hit your credit card. But the Google Analytics, the Google site or Search Console, the Facebook Pixel, the Facebook, I mean, that's all free. And if you've got a nice agency, a lot of times they'll create the account for you and transfer everything over to you. If they didn't, you could have a conversation with them. But those things are free. And then,
You mean we should be charging for doing that? That's what you're saying?
maybe that should be a future service of me and Joe, is just transferring content. But for all those paid things, yes, you absolutely need to be prepared for. It's not they bill you net 30. There's a threshold. A lot of times it starts at $350. Once you hit that, they're hitting your credit card, and they'll stop your advertising until the credit clears, or they'll do it over a 30-day period. But and a pro tip for business owners out there: use a credit card on your digital advertising. Get points, reinvest it into your business. Go on vacation, do it as a giveaway. Like,
That's a good point.
Have your money double down on itself twice. You can get the credit for it, and you can get the investment into the advertising and get the revenue from running really cool digital marketing campaigns. That one's free. Nobody has to pay for it.
That's pretty good.
All right, so 3 letters. They're 3 letters that we hear a lot of times, that every local business who's ever met with any digital company, or in particular any media company, hear these 3 letters. Can you guess the 3 letters that I'm thinking of?
CPM?
No.
Am I close?
Starts with an O.
OTT.
So talk a little bit about OTT/CTV. I'm going to go for it. I made a huge leap, but only because of time, and I thought it was an important thing to bring up.
Absolutely, that's a great transition there, and I will say I'll be speaking on this topic with a vendor of ours with AAF coming up in the next couple of weeks, and check that one out after conversations. That'll be a little more of an in-depth talk, but OTT, and I'm so glad you brought it up because I have my good friend Bourbon here to do this analogy with, which is my favorite in media. So OTT is streaming video. So streaming video could be Fox.com, it could be Channel5.com, it could be anything online is OTT. Also, what falls under OTT is connected TV, so CTV.
You got to tell your bourbon analogy since you brought
I'm getting there. So all OTT is CTV, not all CTV is OTT. So for those bourbon drinkers out there, you know that all bourbon is whiskey, not all whiskey is bourbon. To be whiskey, you basically just have to be aged in the barrel and corn, wheat. Bourbon has to be a certain percentage corn, has to be in a fresh oak barrel, blah, 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 blah. So same thing, some whiskey drinkers out there are going to hate me for this, but bourbon, CTV, is better, higher quality, more controlled than OTT. Now you can get into, there's some other nuances out there of like CTV can be bought directly. For instance, you can buy CTV directly from ESPN. You can buy CTV directly from Good Karma Brands, who sells ESPN. There's direct partnerships. No paid mentions. There's direct partnerships, which are you're leveraging basically relationships to be able to buy big screen CTV inventory, and then there's the open exchange, which is the wild, wild west. What we're finding in OTT is people don't know how to buy it, right? Because it's on a TV screen sometimes, and a lot of times though, like I want to buy it like my TV schedule, but I can't buy it like my TV schedule because it's bought and sold off of CPM, which is cost per thousand. So where I like to describe OTT and CTV, it falls somewhere in the middle, right? You need to buy it a little bit like TV, but you have to have enough of a digital background to be able to buy it smart. Basically, the way that boils down is something that we talk about in the office a lot, is that not all impressions are created equally. And what that means is basically, I'm pretty sure every business owner out there would much rather spend $40 to serve one impression to the right person at the right show up in their store and buy whatever that business is selling, versus 10,000 impressions for $40 that hits everybody in the market, and hopefully it's a crapshoot and we find what we're looking for. So, you have to have that digital wherewithal to be able to buy the right impression at the right place and know what you're bidding on. But you also need to be TV minded, and you got to hit the right reach and frequency numbers, and buy it like a traditional media package. The buyer beware is that everyone and their brother is selling OTT and CTV. Every media company, every media rep. I mean, the billboard companies sell OTT and CTV. And I'm not saying they shouldn't, because there's really good and smart reps out there that know how to sell it and know how to make it an effective tool for businesses. But if a business owner or a media buyer isn't educated on what things they want, you're going to get sold a bag of goods and not enjoy the experience. From somebody, I mean, we've bought it direct, we've bought it programmatically, we've bought it through media companies. Really what it boils down to is, like, we know what questions to ask and we know how to direct them. And then same thing with all the other digital campaigns. They do what we tell them to do. So you have to be educated on it if you're going to buy it. If you just buy it as an afterthought, think of it as an expense, not an investment.
And we know there's certain things in 1 minute, not that we're all out of time, but in 1 minute, just say, like, what are some of the things that we look for in the reporting that you might get after a campaign or during a campaign to say, okay, this was actually a worthwhile investment and not just an expense for getting our name out there a little bit.
Yeah, so video completion rate, which is a percentage from 0 to 100% of how much of the ad somebody's watched. Anything, last I checked, was anything above 92% should be considered OTT or CTV. Anything below that, question it, because CTV, it's on a TV, you can't skip it. So video completion rate, placement, time of day placement, and then if you, what we look for and what I think all businesses should look for is some type of conversion or attribution model. If you're just getting how many impressions were served and where the placement was, you can buy a cable package. And I'm not knocking cable, because cable is, I mean, it makes sense for a lot of businesses and it works. But OTT and CTV can get down to the device level. So the basic of the technology is it knows that TV, that Fire Stick that's plugged into the TV, is connected to this Wi-Fi network. The cell phone that's sitting in your pocket is connected to the same Wi-Fi network, so we're going to connect the two. All right, awesome. So now I know your cell phone, I know your TV. Your cell phone then walks into a store. All right, that's a geo-conversion. An OTT campaign can and should be able to track that. There's also online conversion. So since we were able to say anything, and there's different ways to get there, and I understand cable companies, if you really could do me a favor and stop scrambling IP addresses every 30 to 60 days, you would save me a lot of headache. You're probably going to cut it down to 10 to 15 after that comment, but there's different ways of getting to say that, okay, somebody saw it on a big screen, then they search on their computer or they search on their phone, they go to your website, they buy XYZ or register XYZ. You can actually track that as a conversion. So you have this attribution that you can put with an OTT campaign that you might not be able to put with a cable campaign, you might not be able to put with a radio campaign. And Yeah, I know we are getting kind of to the end here, but one thing that I did want to mention today that I think, Bradley, this goes back to a question you asked, in that like the expectations of digital. Even as a digital guy, even as a guy who 3 years ago was hired and didn't necessarily believe in mass, radio TV campaigns, because I buy YouTube TV and listen on Spotify, and digital fits into tradition each other, and the two have to work together to be effective. You can't just pull away from traditional and abandon it and expect digital, OTT, social media, PPC, all that to do all the heavy lifting for you. They are so interconnected that you can't take them apart. And don't just give digital the credit because you have the analytics on it. If you have a CRM system, good for you. Track where they have your salespeople ask, where'd you hear about us? It's not a perfect science, but it's better than never knowing. If you don't have a CRM system, go out and find one. There's tons of really good ones and tons of really good resellers like Me and Your Advertising that can sell you HubSpot. There's tons of awesome CRM systems out there that you should be investing in. Again, data is a really impactful and powerful tool that you need to utilize to your business. That it seems daunting, it seems scary, but in the long run, it's going to make your business smarter. It's going to make you a better and more profitable business. Which at the end of the day, that's why you invest in marketing to begin with, to grow the amount of revenue that you get as a business, to grow your business and be more and more successful.
All right. So at the risk of not being able to ask you any of the fun end of the stream questions here, I would love to have you tell about a couple of recent success stories, because the question we can get to is this expensive? And I feel like maybe using a couple recent success stories where people are not investing that much money but are really reaping huge benefits. And I think, while sometimes I say no names, please feel free if you feel comfortable to give a couple examples that would be interesting, I think, to people who are watching, who are wondering, how could this help me?
Yeah, absolutely. Always happy to shout out our amazing partners out there. And for me, one of the top ones of a success story is Easy Pet, which is a dog or pet waste management service, which is a really nice way to say they pick up dog poop in your yard. So they have what I would consider to be a very modest investment into PPC and social media advertising that has netted them such results that they've reinvested that, continue to increase their budget. They were able to negotiate some interesting deals where they kind of own different markets now, and it continues to grow. So there's someone who you have your data, so your targeting, your creative, and your tracking. For them, all three of those lined up perfectly, and they were able to have a small investment and get really good results. And then we're good business-minded. Chad's he's got a great business mind, and then he reinvested it and continues to try and find the new next and grow on it, not just say, hey, let's stay flat. So that's a great story there. Work with a great bathroom remodeler named Bath R Us. Again, Chad, not the same Chad, great business mind, great partner. Somebody who there was a recommendation to actually triple the budget, which it's the whole not what you do but how you do it. And what we found was that we were able to spend less and just design the campaign better to get better triple. Which is awesome. I mean, who would think that as a marketer, as an advertiser, you would tell somebody you don't need to spend more money? Which Todd, as the owner of Me and Joe, would probably tell me to shut up and say, no, you're kidding. You don't always need to spend more money to be more successful. I mean, you need to invest in the right things and know how to structure the campaign. in order to get the success you need. We could go down the list of any of the other digital partners, but to me, those are the ones that.
Yeah, and I mean, I knew you would use those, and I just to clarify for anybody out there, like what we mean by successful or by results are X number of actual leads that are attributed to that particular campaign per week that can then be tracked to whether it turned into a sale or whatever the objective is. Like, we know we can actually come up with a legitimate return on investment at the end of a given week or given month, at the end of the year, to determine whether or not something was successful. And there's a lot that goes into it, and Anthony's on top of that every day, and we have reporting, very transparent with everybody, and then they're also watching it. I mean, we don't have to give them the report; they're watching it because it's that important. And there's nothing we like better than when we get a text, whether it's at 10 o'clock at night or at earlier or later, that says, got X number of leads today from Facebook and X number of leads today from Google. And not that Anthony didn't already know about that, but it's cool that people are watching it. You can get that kind of information and see it in real time.
And I would even, conversation going full circle, that goes back to making sure you have those analytics and data points set up correctly to begin with. And also making sure you have that conversation if you do use a third party, whether it be an agency or a freelancer, that you communicate with them to let them know all the other things that you're doing. I say that because it'd be really nice and easy for me, for a number of partners that we work with, to take what I would, and we're going into a big rabbit hole, brand search. Take credit for brand search, which is essentially someone searching for the business's name, and say, oh, my return on ad spend, I got a 40% click-through rate, and I got, our return on ad spend is 13 to 1. Return on ad spend is just what you got divided by what you spent, not ROI, which takes in a lot of other factors. But I would love to be able to take credit for that. That's unfair. So it's unfair for me to take credit for that because people are searching for that brand name from somewhere else. I'm not saying you shouldn't have been on brand search, but you really have to keep an eye on it, have to have that understanding, have to have those conversations, and be able to trust the partners that you work with. Because again, like, we have a Northeast Factory Direct, great partner of ours, that he's really got a good business mind, that it's all about the percentages and keeping the percentage low for the customer. So the marketing and advertising spend needs to be low. So we need to be really, really buttoned up to make sure we're not compounding our advertising spend by having inefficient or duplicate impressions or frequency buildup for consumers, because that's going to be passed through to them when they buy a piece of furniture or a product. So
nice shout out.
Yeah.
All right. So this team that you're looking at here can really help you with this. We encourage you to get help with your digital, unless you're one of those people who think you can do it yourself. And then after you figure out that you're not, then get help. Doesn't have to be us. There are people out there. I think we've given you some of the things to be careful of and to look out for. However, if you are interested in talking to us, Anthony, I'll give this to you. How can somebody, they liked you, they liked what you had to say, they thought the rest of us were okay. Like, what should they do if they want to talk to us about helping with their digital advertising?
Go to meanjoeadvertising.com. There are a number of forms, emails, phone numbers you can reach us at. You can email me directly, Anthony@meanjoeadvertising.com. And I can't stress this enough, and I think it's probably the biggest value that Mean Joe has, is that we are a team. There are 5 of us that work very, very digital. Big person about perspective and bringing different perspectives into situations. We get 5 perspectives to find the right solution for a business. So, cannot harp enough on the fact that we have an awesome team of 5 people that work on your behalf if you end up working with Mean Joe for a digital or traditional standpoint. But Anthony@meanjoeadvertising.com, best way to get a hold of me. And it could be a 15-minute conversation. Shoot me an email, call me, and we'll definitely answer any questions you have.
And since I get to ask all the questions that I have at the end, I'm just going to ask one. Who is your least favorite Cleveland Browns linebacker of all time?
Joe Schobert, by far the most overrated linebacker in the NFL. He should have not even done an alternate in the Pro Bowl 3 years ago.
Oh my God.
I just want to
Can
say
we asterisk? These are
Yeah.
not the views of Mean Joe
to
Advertising.
the audience,
100%.
this guy also can't stand Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Just want
Not a
to,
good-
just give you who we're talking to.
I figured I had to bring it up because I made the comment of the guy who like makes the statement and sticks with it no matter what.
Now, I will say life again is all about perspective, and I think I'm just jealous of the fact of someone who has such a level that I should have gotten one shot, but at least he's a really nice guy.
That's true.
All right, and I think that pretty much says it all. If you liked us and liked Anthony, then there you go. And if you didn't,
Let us know in the comments if you didn't.
Yeah. All right.
all right, way to go. Cheers.
Thanks.
Love you.